What's going on, YouTube? I appreciate you guys stopping by, and I have a very special guest. Some of you may have saw my live stream with Kareem from the channel Smell of Truth the other day, and we got to talking, and we thought, let's brainstorm some video ideas together, and we decided we're going to do a fall list. He hasn't really put out any fall content yet on his channel, and I love talking about this time of year, so I figured why not? So we've each got 5 that we want to discuss with you guys. So stay tuned. So, Kareem, thank you so much for being on the channel once again, my man. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well. Thank you as well for having me here. And hello, beautiful people.
So, for those of you that aren't familiar with Kareem's content, I will have his Instagram page as well as his YouTube down below. Make sure you go subscribe, give him a follow, and check out his content. He is the premier fragrance influencer, fragrance reviewer, however you want to look at it, in Zurich, Switzerland, at least in my opinion, anyways.
I don't know many, honestly, in Switzerland.
You're
There
kind
are
of the spokesperson for the country.
Yeah, I think so.
So, Kareem, why don't you start us off with the first fragrance?
So, I'm starting off with a new release this year with Tom Ford Noir Extreme Parfum. This one, I have to say, it blew my... At first, I wasn't that impressed, but after giving it a full wearing, after trying it, and also after making a street reaction battle to compare it to the original Noir Extreme, I have to say that I started to enjoy this one actually a little bit more. It is a bit kind of darker, more, let's say, oriental version with a ginger note to it, and it isn't as sweet as Noir Extreme, but definitely stronger. So if you're looking for something darker, let's say more mature and stronger, you will be good with Tom Ford Noir Extreme Parfum. Which one is your first pick, Ross?
All right, so it's funny that you asked that. I decided that what I'm wearing today would actually be a great way for me to start this video topic off. This is a new flanker from Rochas in the L'Homme line. This is, I don't know why it doesn't want to focus, but this is Aromatic Touch, Rochas L'Homme Aromatic Touch. As the bottle color would indicate, this is a much more dense green, earthy, and woody take on the original. You still get a little bit of that juniper geranium feel, even though I don't necessarily remember those being in the note breakdown exactly. I believe the juniper is still there. You're going to get kind of that gin, juniper berry aromatic feel that it can provide in a lot of designer fragrances with this dense, somewhat fresh, but somewhat earthy green tone. Like I said, as you would expect, it's full of aromatics, as in the name, as well as the color of the bottle will indicate what you can expect from the scent profile. Nothing super complicated and extremely deep, but you can find this, even though it's a pretty new release, you can find this one pretty cheap. I paid right around $36, I believe, after the 37% off code from FragranceNet for a pretty new release where the original fragrance was such a steal for most people in the designer realm. It's a bona fide steal as a cheap fragrance that really could warrant being a higher price, but I mean, for the 30 to 40 bucks you would pay for the original, it's a no-brainer because the quality's there. Same thing goes for the flanker with Aromatic Touch. The quality is there, the performance is there. It's not super familiar where you'll think it smells like a bunch of different fragrances, but it's also not super unique at the same time. It's pretty much built well for this particular season. I think it dresses up and dresses down. So that's the one I had to start with. It's actually my scent of the day, is Rochas L'Homme Aromatic Touch.
I will have to try that one.
It is good. It's very good. I only have 3 sprays on because I got a hoodie on, so I don't want to just douse my hoodie in it. I like spray on skin. So, but Kareem, what do you have for us next, my man?
Next up, I have one of my all-time favorite fragrances, one of my most complimented fragrances as well. And we had that discussion already in your live stream, Ross, where someone asked which one will be the only Zaharoff I would keep, and I had to pick Tabac. You see, my bottle has a pretty big dent, almost half full, half empty, however you want to see it. And this one, even, I mean, if even George Zaharoff compliments you on this one, you just know that it is good on your skin. This one is, so on my skin, George said it feels a bit woody on my skin. I actually feel it feels a bit spicy. Definitely has some woodiness to it. A little bit boozy, sweet with a dark vanilla, some honey to it, and a really dark, still aromatic tobacco note that I really, really enjoy. Still, the fragrance wears a bit lighter, as Ross likes to explain that very well. So it isn't that deep when you, for example, smelled it in the air. So you can easily also wear that one when it is a little bit warmer or on rainy days in summer, for example. This is what I do. With a very good projection, sillage, and longevity, I can really not complain on this one.
Definitely a fantastic choice. That's one of my favorites as well. We joked before we started recording this that I assumed he was putting that as his 5, so I purposely didn't put it in my 5. Just know that one of us was going to feature that. We both really, really enjoy Tabac for this time of year.
I appreciate the gesture that I can mention it, kind of.
Well, it's only fair because even though I have a pretty big dent, your dent's a little bit bigger than mine in bottles. I would think you're more of the authority on the scent profile with how many times you've sprayed that fragrance.
So which one is your next?
So next for me is something that I've yet to reach for this fall. I wanted to feature this one because it's been on my mind lately. It is a fantastic release from Cartier. It is my only Cartier fragrance, believe it or not. And I have smelled others in the line, but I really believe this is the definitive version that really speaks to my senses. It is Pasha de Cartier Parfum. This is a very beautiful, boozy, warm, woody, slightly herbal fragrance. It has that fougere-ish appeal to it. It'd be great if it would focus, wouldn't it? Oh, well, that's irrelevant, I guess. But the fragrance performs very well. And like I said, it has more of that grown man, masculine appeal to it. Not necessarily the most playful of fragrances out there, with also not being an extremely serious and challenging fragrance, but it's definitely one that can dress up very well. Not necessarily the best choice for a t-shirt, in my opinion, but situations where you're wearing maybe a polo shirt, Oxford, or so on and above, and you're looking to make kind of an assertive, strong statement with your fragrance. This is one of those scent profiles that will do that for you. Like I said, it has a beautiful warmth to the booziness, creamy sandalwood without being too creamy of a fragrance. It doesn't, sometimes when there's a lot of sandalwood or a lot of vanilla, it can just make it this creamy aroma. Here, it doesn't really take over the fragrance too much, but it is very noticeable. And like I said, there's some light, fresh, herbaceous notes to it, a little bit of spices. Again, nothing very deep, but it's a very, assertive is the best word. I know I said that already, but very assertive scent profile. Like I said, man's type of scent profile, modern day version of the original Pasha de Cartier Parfum, in my opinion. So I had to go with this one, Pasha de Cartier Parfum.
Sounds good. Also, I can tell a follower of mine that was asking for a review on Pasha on a Cartier fragrance. I think it was this one. Mm-hmm. And I told him that I smelled them like on paper, but I didn't like
I actually have a full review on my channel from like 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. So I can send him just over the link.
Send it my way. I did one actually when I still worked at Jaguar Land Rover. I did it in my office. I did the review. I was bored. I didn't have nothing going on, so I filmed the review. Great. I was wearing it that day. I had it with me. All right. So Kareem, that's my second pick. What is your third pick?
Le Mal Le Parfum. And honestly, I cannot stop talking about this. Literally, when I first sprayed this on when was it released? 2021, I think. I wasn't impressed. Actually, I have to be honest here. I was a little bit disgusted. I was like, the hell is this? Who would wear that? Then I was like, okay, leave it for a few months or even a few weeks. Don't remember exactly. Go again, grab it again, try it again. Instant love. I had to get a full bottle immediately. Sometimes it is just that you have to retry a certain fragrance, and even if it wasn't love at first sniff, at least it was love at second sniff. So if you enjoyed the original Le Mal, just imagine a more spicy oriental kind of version to it, made it darker, and add a lipsticky kind of iris note to it. Without really being feminine, I think this one is pretty masculine, and it's also a great pick if you want to impress some ladies. It has a really good projection, it leaves an immense sillage, And it has also a very good longevity of at least 9 hours on my skin. So I can really not complain about that.
So I have to say that's a fantastic choice. When he told me that was going to be one of his five, I kind of giggled because I only have a decant still. I don't have a bottle yet, but like I told him, if I had a bottle, that would have been one of my five as well. I think it's phenomenal. No secret that I love Iris, and there's certain designer level Iris fragrances that just speak to you. They make an impact, whether it's because of something someone told you about the way it smelled or just catching random whiffs off of your own skin. It's a beautiful scent profile. So I could not agree more with everything that you had to say. And I'm glad it's in this video. It deserves to be in this video.
And I am glad that we kind of matched in taste when it comes to that.
For sure.
So, which one is your third pick, Russ?
So for me, I wanted to grab something niche. It's, another thing that's no secret about me is I'm a big fan of the house of Amouage. And there's one in particular that I've really been gravitating towards this fall. It's not necessarily my absolute favorite tobacco scent, but in a fall list like this, you have to have a banger of a tobacco scent. And to me, Amouage Boundless is definitely all of that and then some. This is gorgeous, has a beautiful kind of sharp citrus at the top. I believe it's a blood orange note, very zesty, deep, rich, thick, and earthy tobacco. You have some incense here, some resins. There's a darker nuance to it more and more as it dries down, but it doesn't become too dark. There's some vanilla, there's some sweetness. There's a decent amount of complexity here. This is actually a rather deep tobacco fragrance that does have subtle changes throughout its lifespan on your skin. And in my experience, that lifespan on your skin is what we would consider beast mode in the realm of the fragrance community. This is every bit of 12 plus hours on my skin, as are most Amouage fragrances. This one is no exception to that. Projection's pretty heavy early on in the first 2 to 3 hours. You can expect this to make an impact, make a statement when you enter a room. People are going to smell you, especially if you're the moderate to heavy spraying type. 5 sprays is pretty pronounced on here, but you start getting into the 7, 9, 11 sprays and so on range, you're filling a room with a fragrance like this. So I know a lot of people associate price with getting certain levels of performance. That's no worry here. You're going to get plenty of performance, a great familiar, but kind of its own twist on a sweeter, smoky tobacco type of scent profile. Doesn't necessarily smell like everything else. I know when people hear tobacco and vanilla, they think Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. Faint similarity, definitely not anything I would say walks the same path. If anything, this is, a few steps ahead in my personal opinion, because it still has that Middle Eastern touch that Amouage is known for. This is very good stuff, absolutely sample worthy, and was an easy choice for me to pick from the house as far as, because I wanted to add one niche fragrance to my 5, and this was a clear-cut favorite for me so far this year, so I had to feature it. It's Amouage Boundless. Yeah.
It sounds really good. I just catched up the notes while you were talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
and it has some really impressive and also sounds very, very dark, but still somehow kind of sweet. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I definitely give this one a try once I visit the perfume store again.
Yeah, it's one of those fragrances that pretty much what you see, you're going to get a lot of those notes. Like I said, there's a lot of, it's deeper than you may anticipate. You get a lot of subtle changes as it goes along on your skin. What you get in the beginning is not what you're going to get in an hour, in 3 hours, in 5 hours, and so on. It constantly has these slow but steady changes throughout the scent profile. It's very, very lovely. Does not get enough love, in my opinion. But Kareem, what do you have for us next?
And next, since I already headed a bit of the direction of impressing the ladies, I thought to grab my most complimented fragrance when it only comes to getting compliments from women, and it is Nishane Ani. This one, I didn't expect it at all. The first comment I heard of that was from one of my best friends, and I bought it new. I visited her, we went out, I wore it, and she was like, "You smell like an old man." And I was like, totally blown away because this is definitely not what you want to hear uh, as a fragrance enthusiast, and especially not if you purchase the fragrance for like $250. So I was like, you just have no taste, and it depends. Like, her taste is just different, which is totally fine. Every other woman so far that have smelled this always wanted to know which fragrance this is, wanted to get it for her fiance her boyfriend, her husband, whatsoever, or even wanted to wear this herself, because some might say it leans feminine. I could agree to that if you're not too much into sweeter scents and you're more into darker and more kind of masculine scents. Could definitely lean a bit feminine, but believe me, on men's skin, this one is magic. And if I can just drop some names, if even Curly Fragrance and Miss Fresh compliment you on this fragrance, I think it is a status, kind of. So this one is a kind of spicy vanilla-ish fragrance. It has a really unique vanilla to it. It has some spice to it. It has also some fruitiness to it from blackcurrant, and it is a really long-lasting fragrance as well. Projection, all good, and I think the dent in here also speaks for itself.
So another one that I was thrilled when he showed me that was going to be in his 5, because longtime viewers of the channel know I love that fragrance. I have a 100 ml. My wife's a huge fan. I can see where you're coming from with some people saying it might lean feminine. That's for those that aren't big fans of the sweet fragrances,
Yeah.
like you were saying, but it's an intoxicating scent profile. One of the most alluring and sexy scents I've ever smelled. I love smelling it on myself. It's incredible. The benzoin really jumps out to me on my skin. It almost provides a little bit of a boozy feel at the top. It's got that effervescence to it, you know?
Okay.
It's not a deeper resinous benzoin. It's more of a bright benzoin, I find, with the spices, and that the vanilla is more on the unique side. Like you were saying, like I didn't want to chime in, but I couldn't help but chime in because I'm a huge fan of that fragrance as well. This really is the only top 10 fall fragrance list that you need.
Ross, which one is your choice number 4?
All right, so for me, this is one that my wife is a huge fan of. Kind of what's forcing me into adding it to my rotation, which I'm a big fan of it as well. The grapefruit, and I forgot what other citrus in here. It actually almost has kind of an orangey feel, the way it comes off with the ginger. Does not get any love. This is Polo Red Eau de Parfum. Not too many people are fans of this one. You hear about the extreme all the time. The Intense used to be a darling for this line. And then this one came out. This is one of the more recent flankers. And like I said, it's got that zestiness to it in the top, fresh, spicy, crisp, and bright. Still pretty well grounded. It's not overly sweet. Like some of the other flankers are much sweeter than this one. The sweetness is toned down a little bit, but don't get me wrong, it's still a Polo Red fragrance. It still has some fruity, fresh sweetness. It's not real vanilla heavy. This one doesn't feature a strong tone of the coffee note like the other ones did, or a heavy dose of the cranberry. That's where you got a lot of your fruity sweetness from in the other flankers. This one's kind of a little bit more refined and I guess more versatile in many ways. It's not quite as geared towards the evenings and just the cold, like I would say the Intense and the Extreme are. They're much more robust, sweet, heavy with the roasted coffee and everything, high oil concentrations. Whereas here, this is a great daytime scent. Can double in the evenings as well. Great on a cool, crisp day, but also doubles well on those days where it's a little bit warmer because, as you guys know, in the fall, you get a little bit of everything. You have some warmer days, you have some cooler days, and this one can kind of do it all. It's casual, it's dressy, it's daytime, it's nighttime. It's super versatile for the fall. I had to have this one in here. My wife's right. It smells amazing, and I need to wear it more. That's why we're talking about it today. This is Polo Red Eau de Parfum from Ralph Lauren.
That's why I think that it is great that we made our list kind of together, because we complement us in a very good way. You have some more lighter, while I go with the heavy triggers.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it worked out, honestly, because admittedly, 2 of the fragrances I have are a bit on the heavy side, but then the other 2, Aromatic Touch and Polo Red, are much more bright and airy. So we're definitely adding some versatility into people's lives here.
Yeah,
So
I think that's great.
So you have one left, Kareem. Talk to me about it.
The last one I have left is also a new release. I think this year was actually a pretty good year when it comes to designer releases, and it is the newest gentleman Givenchy. Reservé Privee, somehow the name is a little bit of a headache. But man, when I smelled this, I bought this blind for the sake of doing a review, and I fell in love immediately. So many people compare this one to Dior Homme Parfum. I definitely see where you're coming from. I personally cannot get along with the Iris from Dior. Somehow it gives me a bit too powdery feeling and a little bit kind of old person kind of feeling. Sorry, Ross. I know you love Iris. This one fits perfectly my taste somehow. It is sweet, it has the booziness, but the boozy isn't really kind of boozy. It adds more a kind of sweetness, well-rounded to it. It has some spiciness to it, maybe some woodiness in the dry down, but especially the iris note isn't too powdery, isn't too floral. It's really well balanced and it's just lovely. Also, strong fragrance, good projection, good longevity of 8 to 9 hours, I would say, and leaves a good sillage as well.
Another excellent choice. Another one that I only have a decant of, but I can't argue with the pick. I'm a fan of the line. I don't have a bottle of that one yet because it's a little redundant. I have the EDP, I have EDP Boisé, and it's kind of like combine those two and add rum is kind of how I feel about that one. So I don't think I'll ever get a full bottle of it, but I do agree that if you don't have the two that I have, that is the definitive version. It is the best one of the three, but it encompasses the best elements of the other two. So that's where I say we have some redundancy here. But excellent, excellent choice.
I totally agree with you. So, Ross, which one is your last pick?
So for me, this was an easy choice. I actually did a video about this being my number one fall fragrance for men the other day. And it's not just because it's a recommendation for you guys. It's literally what I've been wearing the most. So clearly, it's my number one fragrance for this fall. It is Armav's Club de Nuit Intense Man. This is the limited edition Parfum flanker. So what I like so much more about this one over the Eau de Toilette is that harshness of the opening with that super sharp lemon from the EDT. It's not quite as harsh. I don't know if it's because they raised the oil concentration and changed the blend. They added a few notes. It's not the exact same note breakdown, but you still get the beautiful nature of a zesty, sharp lemon without it being too harsh. Because that was a lot of people's complaints in the EDT. That harshness is gone here. It's a beautiful, almost candied, sharp type of lemon at the top. You still get the heavy dose of that fruitiness of the black currant. There's some other citruses. I think they added pink grapefruit, if I remember correctly. There's still bergamot and such. Heavy, dark fragrance that's also kind of airy and uplifting at the same time. For as dark of a fragrance as this is darker than Creed Aventus, especially bottles over the last few years of Creed Aventus. I would take this, and I said this in my video, 10 times out of 10 over my 19S11 bottle of Creed Aventus. I enjoy this one that much more. Admittedly, the projection is not as heavy as the EDT because, you know, that's a lighter, more volatile fragrance. So naturally, it gets out in the air a bit easier. But this one's no slouch in the projection. The sillage and this longevity is the strength of this fragrance. This is every bit of 10 hours. The sillage leaves a beautiful trail. Another one that my wife is a big fan of. And typically I bring her into this because I want to let you guys know that that's an added bonus for me personally. Of course, it's great for me to love the fragrance, but anytime your significant other can really get some enjoyment out of what you're wearing, it makes it easier to reach for that one over and over again, especially when it's somebody that you spend most of your time with. And that's definitely the case with this fragrance. She's a big fan of it. I'm a big fan of it. I highly encourage you guys to try it. I don't know how easy it would be to get samples, but if maybe the EDT wasn't for you, maybe it was just too, let's say, cheap and chemical smelling, you might want to try this one. Yes, it's going to be double the price. You can get the EDT for around 30 here in the US. This one's going to be around 60, but in my opinion, worth every penny. So technically my number one for fall this year, because I've been wearing it so much, Armav's Club de Nuit Intense Man limited edition Parfum.
I think it is hard to disagree that this DNA just is absolutely stunning.
People love it. I mean, for the longest time, the EDT was one of the most complimented fragrances when I used to wear it on a pretty regular basis. And then I kind of got away from it for a while and would just revisit it on occasion. And then when this came around, I was like, I don't know, something tells me I need to just roll with this. Let me get a bottle. I just blind bought it. Love it. Love it. Great decision. Typically not heavy into featuring clone fragrances in a list that features so many other, you know, non-clone fragrances, but this one just so remarkable to me that I felt like it was absolutely worth mentioning.
I think it is definitely worth mentioning if you enjoy it that much, and if you even would put it in a kind of top 5, or if you want to say like a top 10 together kind of list, then it definitely deserves the spot.
So Once again, Kareem, thank you so much for doing this with me. I loved all 5 of your picks. Some of them are ones I would have chose had I not had decants, and of course, signature Tabac as well. So I feel like together we really compiled a great list of recommendations for some that are maybe looking for some advice or some suggestions. Maybe this could be a beneficial video for them. What do you think, my friend?
I totally agree with that. I think, as I said before, we complement each other very good. We have a really good top 10 list, a little bit for everyone. I think we did great, and I appreciate you really for having me here and for doing this with me. Thank you very much.
Absolutely my pleasure, guys. Once again, make sure to click the links down below. I have Kareem's YouTube channel and his IG page linked for you guys to give him a follow and a subscription, and check out his content on both platforms. And until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, because of course I do appreciate all the feedback and I love hearing from you guys. Was this video helpful for any of you? Obviously, that's leaning more towards some of the newer people to the hobby. For those of you veterans of the fragrance community, do you agree with some of our picks? Do you agree with some of our thoughts and feelings? I'd love to read it down below in the comments. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on either of my 5 or Kareem's 5, you give them a spray now, you might end up thanking us later. Have a good one, guys.